right, everyone, we're here live on Facebook and streaming here on Zoom. So as everybody's getting on, we'd like to see all the names coming in there, some of the old names, some new names, which was great, Anthony. It's fantastic to have everybody on. Welcome, everyone, to our weekly Eulistic high-performance training, I'm calling it. I still have to come up with a better name for it, but maybe we'll do something around the Eulistic Insiders group now we have on Facebook. And our weekly training here. So I see a bunch of names. Shane from Dallas is on. Hey Shane, I think Anthony, you know Shane.
Hi Shane. Yeah, of course.
I don't know. Were you part of our high performance club when Chris from Winston-Salem was part of our group? I don't think you were. Chris is on, and a few other guys. Anyway, we're going to get started, folks. We're recording today's session, and we're also streaming it on our Eulistic Insiders Facebook group. My name is Stuart Crawford, for those few people on the call that may not know who I am. And joining me today is my good colleague, Jon Buonaspina from Allied Tech Advisors on the beautiful Long Island.
Yes.
I want to go there, Anthony, because I want to go and spend some time in Montauk.
Okay. You have to quarantine yourself 14 days, though, getting into New York.
After watching The Affair and watching, what was the other show that was out there, Revenge, I want to go to Montauk.
Oh yeah, The Affair. You got to eat at the lobster roll. Allison serve you.
Is that a real place, the lobster roll?
It actually is a real place, but it doesn't look like what it looks like on TV.
Yeah, there
is actually a lobster roll out there.
I have to go, and once the quarantines are lifted, I'll make a trip out there. I looked at Airbnb, and they were like $5,000 a month for a place out there. So
yeah, some nice places.
I think I'm going to crash on your sofa. I think
that's fine.
Maybe have your wife run me over at the same time.
Yeah, that's a very good possibility. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's get started. Get into what we're going to talk about today. As I sent in my emails today, we're going to introduce some new ways that your MSP can generate revenue, and also keep you out of trouble. Because what Anthony's going to share with you today, believe it or not, as an MSP, you could be responsible for an ADA violation or ADA compliance violation with your clients' websites and applications and things they do online. So we're going to help identify some of those things that you should be aware of as well. But Anthony, before we get started, give us a quick intro of Allied Tech Advisors, because you and I have known each other for a number of years now. Well, it seems like a number of years, maybe like a couple, but seems like a lot longer than that. But for the people that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about Allied Tech Advisors.
Well, okay. First of all, based on Long Island, it's New York. We pretty much, we're an MSP. I've been around 30 years. I was an MSP before the MSP definition came out. We were always never sold hardware really, and just offered services and so on. Managed services, always did annual commitments. We still do, that, and some break fix. We deal with schools mainly, a lot of private schools, which is why we're going crazy right now. And also we do, custom software, and then also for the last 10 years or so, ADA compliance for making sure websites are accessible. It's pretty much it in a nutshell.
So tell us, for those people that are not familiar with ADA, give us the history of ADA, because it goes back before websites. We're talking about everything from handles in restrooms and parking spots. That's all part of ADA, right?
Yes. You're talking back, it used to be called the Rehabilitation Act back in the 70s, and that was signed into law. And, that was where you had curb cuts, you have handicap spots, and, major changes to buildings that needed to be done in order to be, for people with disabilities to be accessible. And what happened a few years ago is that now turned into where the Department of Justice pretty much said that the websites now can be considered as places of accommodation, meaning that they are basically brick and mortar. So if that's the case, ADA now kicks in, where websites need to be accessible to the general public. And due to that, there have now been many lawsuits. For example, if you go into a restaurant and it doesn't have the ramps or so on, like the bathroom's height, the counter height is not good enough, the doorway's not wide enough, you could sue. Same thing now with a website. If your website is not ADA compliant, you're going to end up with a problem. You can get served a letter and sued again. So that's why it's important to making sure your home base, your website is compliant, and also your client's website, especially as an MSP. Give you an idea too. I mean, take a few steps back. A person with a disability, it could be a blind person, could be a mobility impaired, could be cognizant, could be deaf. They all need to be able to access a website. And my first thing 10 years ago, I had no clue about any of this. I said, how does a blind guy even see a website? How does he use a cell phone?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they can. And I was totally amazed at this, is that because my cousin who is blind for about 15 years now, he went blind because of a mold spore. All of a sudden, went into a coma, woke up, in January through Christmas and so on, and totally black, couldn't see a thing. And from that point forward, I mean, he learned how to operate and computers and so on. And I had an opportunity years ago where somebody contacted me, a technician from like Tennessee, who asked me for his help if I can go to a client locally because he couldn't do it because he's blind. And I said, wait, you're an IT guy? How are you supporting? He started giving me a rundown. I then went to my cousin who was blind. I said, anything about accessibility? At that point, he hit me and said, what do you think? Of course I do. So from that point forward, about 10 years ago, I've been working with him on I learned everything I could about it, got my certifications. Even Jonathan, who's on this call now, also is a CPAC certified accessibility expert. The whole thing about that, too, is that, a blind person, for example, can navigate a website using something called a screen reader. What a screen reader does is actually reads what's on the screen, whether you're in a browser, whether you're just on a desktop, Windows desktop, even your icons and your email, your Outlook, and so on. It reads what's on there using a screen reader. The screen reader, though, only works if you're on a website, for example, if your website is designed properly using the standard HTML, requirements and stuff like that. There's guidelines. They're called WCAG from the W3C. There's guidelines out there for making a website accessible. Mm-hmm. Now, if those guidelines are not followed, then what happens, you go to a website and those screen readers don't work. That's where the problems come in.
Yeah. And
the problems get multiplied when a person with a disability, a blind person, for example, again, and I keep using blind, the reason is that they account for like 95% of the problems. If you can make a site accessible to a blind individual, you've made it accessible for like 95% of the disabled population. So, again, if they go to a website and they, go to a field, let's say first name, last name, and so on, if those fields aren't labeled in the background, they won't see them. The screen reader won't be able to read them. That's why it's important to just follow these guidelines, the basic HTML. Here's the other thing too, is that by doing this to a website and designing it properly for ADA compliance, you're also making it accessible to Google. Google's blind.
Oh yeah, Google loves ADA work that we do.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. Stuart even said our site, there's some kind of health monitor or something that Google uses that says ours is one of the highest sites out there as far as health, overall health of it, as far as from an SEO standpoint. You're basically making your website accessible to Google to read it.
Yeah, because Google. Well, you said Google's blind, right?
Google's blind. Yeah. It reads the website, so it's important to do this. So it's a win-win situation. All right, accessibility right now it's intended. It really benefits all users, regardless of their ability or disability. And you also, you have to have a continued commitment to accessibility in order to protect yourself and the company. All right, so even though once you fix your site and so on, you have to have that commitment so that when you make a change and so on, or you add the button, that you have to tag it. You have to, for an image, if it's a beach scene with somebody walking a dog, you have to describe the image in the alt tag. It says, and beach scene, it's a person walking a dog. So the thing is, you need to be dedicated to this as far as that. And then what happens is that it becomes a no-brainer. Adding another page to a website and so on, by default, it will be accessible.
So before we carry on, just if anyone has any questions, the Q&A panel I have open on my screen here. feel free to drop a question in there. We also have the chat, and we were a little late getting the stream going on Facebook. Rookie mistake, I guess, for me. But that's okay. We learn from these things going forward. So now we're streaming the new Eulistic Insiders Facebook group. If you haven't joined that group, make sure you head over to Facebook and join that group as well. So Anthony, lots of stuff, and I mean, yeah, you're right. The SEO benefits of ADA compliance are, from what I realized, was an added bonus. It was great. But let's talk about. Before we get into the opportunity, let's talk about what MSP should be doing and what you guys are doing to tell your clients. Because you said something kind of profound a while ago to me, and you say a lot of things that are amazing, but this one really just stuck out, was that the MSP could be sued if their websites, the client's websites, are not compliant.
That's absolutely true. Even if you don't manage their website, okay, because you are their technology expert. All right, that's how you're presenting yourself to them. So if their website gets sued for non-compliance, they could turn to you and bring you in on that lawsuit. I've seen it happen, and it's a tough situation to be in. So what you want to do is avoid that from the beginning. Like what I do is I do a quick check of my clients' websites. I do this on a regular basis, and then send a letter to them, an email, that states that their site's out of compliance, and I recommend that they get it into compliance. All right. At that point, I'm off the hook. I told them about it. I made them aware that their site is.
You don't make them sign a document saying they acknowledge that you've made them aware of that?
In some cases, I would, but just the fact that I get an email back stating that we're going to look into it, or no, we're not interested in it, is enough in my case, because I have written confirmation that they either accepted it or didn't take my advice.
Okay. Because you're the technology advisor, the VCIO, the VCTO, whatever you want to call yourselves.
Right.
So it's just not network monitoring and dark web scanning and.
No, we're all inclusive.
You own everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if stuff that doesn't even apply to us, they always call us first, and then we'll make a suggestion. They'll call so and so. They do this and better than us, or they do it, and et cetera, et cetera. But in this case, we told them to contact their website designer, at least. Not that we're going to make the fixes, but the website designer should be able to go in and make the appropriate changes. They can work with us to do, go further into, checking it out and certification. But if in a lot of cases, they'll design a new site from the ground up, and that's when you really have to get accessibility from the ground up. Somebody in there to make sure they know what they're doing, because that's when it's the cheapest. It doesn't cost anything to add accessibility to a site when you're building it. All right, it's when you have to go back afterwards. There was a Target department stores here on Long Island that was sued for $6 million. It cost them $21 million to fix the site because it's a very complex site and it's very difficult to go back in there. They were using divs and other things which were very hard from an accessibility standpoint in coding to fix. Whereas if they'd started, fresh, it would have been an easier choice, all right, especially with calendar pop-ups. We worked at American Airlines a while back, who, we just told them, look, use this calendar pop-up. It's accessible, all right? Just implement it properly and you're good.
So those are examples of, large companies. What about small ones? I know you had a winery that you
Yes, one of my clients now, and for 2 years, I kept telling them, I said, listen, your site's not accessible, all right? They didn't care. They said, no, why bother? We don't care. They didn't care. So what ended up happening, they ended up suing like 26 wineries here on Long Island. What happens is a lot of drive-by attorneys, a bunch of them in New York City that hire a person with a disability, that they go check out websites. In this case, they checked out wineries, and they sued all of them. And the average lawsuit was around $25,000. So this attorney made a lot of money. All right. The winery had to fix the site. They did fix it by using a plug-in, which still the site is broken. They don't even realize it. Now, once you've been sued, statistically speaking, there's a 25% chance of getting sued again in that same year. Because if you didn't fix the site, or if you have no accessibility statement on the site that says, look, I'm taking steps to fix it, you're another target. Okay. So that's why it's important about making sure you take proactive steps. But as an MSP, it's very important that you alert your clients to the fact that their site needs to be checked It needs, you can even do the quick check yourself. I can give you the link, do a quick like 1-page check. And usually that, shows up some errors and say, look, you need to address this. This is a thing.
So there's an opportunity here for MSPs that may have a web development side of their business to go and talk to them about making those changes or designing a site from the ground up, or partnering with a firm like yours who could do that work.
Yeah. What I'm finding too, just in general, that this is a great foot in the door. This is a differentiator in our case from another MSP on Long Island, which is a lot of them. All right. So when we go to a company, I'll look at like a healthcare company I went into. Now, besides just looking at the MSP side of it, the servers and so on.
Wait, you're not doing dark web scans?
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't every MSP do dark web scans?
Of course. The door? Everybody does that. But you know what? Everybody's heard that. But when you talk about, hey, your website is a brick and mortar, you can get sued on that. They go, what are you talking about? No, it can't. Then you start showing them statistics, giving some links. I have a whole video I made up, which we made it unbranded so anybody else can add to it, which we need to update for 2020, but actually we should just make it perpetual. But the thing is, it's important to have that. This way you can educate your clientele. But the healthcare one, specifically, healthcare is a major target for ADA. So, we went in there and told them, like, hey, you, besides doing this, your website's also not compliant. You know that, right? What do you mean? Nobody else told us that. What makes this? I said, well, this is one of the things we do. But, we don't do the website for you, but we're checking it out and we can also help certify it. We've worked with several companies like that, and it helps us. It's a foot in the door. That's the main thing. Whether or not you get actual ADA work is irrelevant, because now you got it in the door and you're doing your MSP work, because they realize that you're looking out for them on many levels.
So let's paint the scenario, and this is like, I'm sure this is a common everyday, because I work with guys like you all across the world. Anthony, is, they come to me with a great idea. Hey, I'm going to pick on dark web scan because that's the flavor of the week, right?
Yeah.
I got something really, really unique. Don't tell anybody else, but I can scan the dark web for password vulnerabilities. Wow. Great. You and everybody else does that, right? Mm-hmm. But here's what I see is that, not everybody's offering what you guys offer, as a potential way in, like webinar. Like we did that one webinar for that one client a month ago. That was their best attended webinar in a long time. Mm-hmm. Because that's what people care about. They care about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And if you practice pure story branding on it, the villain now is the lawyer who's looking to sue companies, and you're the guide, or the MSP listening to this program is the guide to help make their clients look like a hero by not getting sued.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very important also to understand that there's steps you need to take. Okay. If you do get a letter, okay, it's very important. You can't just ignore it. You have to take steps, and there's like 5 steps you need to do. One is also, contact an attorney. Second thing is make sure you start immediate steps to remediate your site. Also, put on a accessibility statement.
You should have that. You should have that before that.
Absolutely, yeah. But I'm just saying, even before, you wouldn't have gotten the letter maybe if you had the accessibility statement.
Yeah.
But the thing is, at least if you do, you can say, look, I'm taking proactive steps to fix the site. And also, like, there are many sites out there. Some of them are charging $8,000 a month also to just fix the site on an ongoing basis. Some of these sites are just selling a plugin or a quick fix. Some of them are doing for free. You can pop a little plugin in. That does not make the site accessible. All right, it's very important. So you got to make sure that what you're doing actually fixes the site, and you got to make sure somebody, has a CPAC certification. That's the, they have a certification for people that know about accessibility, the accessibility guidelines, that can sign off on the site to say, like, all right, you are good to go at this date and time and stuff like that. But going forward after that, you got to make sure you keep checking the site on a regular basis.
But isn't it true, Anthony, that we could be? It's like COVID-19, right? Mm-hmm. I'll kind of relate ADA to coronavirus, right? I can go get tested today and be negative. I walk into McDonald's later on tonight, I stand next to some guy, and all of a sudden tomorrow I'm
Yeah.
I'm positive. So ADA works the same way. I could be compliant today, but I make one change to the website, add one blog post, now I'm out of compliance. So how do you stay up on top of that?
Now that's a good analogy, actually. Yeah, a perfect analogy. What happens is that, again, if you're COVID and you're staying at home, all right, you're good, right?
Yeah.
As long as you're not touching anything, you're isolated. You got a body protection on. Okay. The thing is, if you're not making any changes to the site,
bubble, right?
yeah, and you're not making any changes to the site, there's nothing changed. Nothing's no problems there. It's when you make a change, even as simple as a blog post or an image, you add an image or a button or something, right away then you could break it. That's why it's important the person that's making that change knows a little bit about accessibility, or you have a company that can check it on the way. But our philosophy is teaching them a fisherman to fish. We got enough business on the ADA side, and again, our whole thing is raising awareness and just letting other MSPs know about this at this point to run with it. But we tend to teach the dev team as we're going along. If somebody has a monthly agreement with us, we have a help desk, they can call us up and stuff. We don't just answer the question, we teach them. Look, once you when you put an image up, you have to put a description on it. All right, if it's a decorative, no, you don't. You have to put a null. So we explain that, and after that, they won't call us on it again. They know to do that going forward. If the dev team changes, that's where the problems come in. Then you got to retrain that person. But again, we're even telling companies that are hiring to make sure you hire somebody with accessibility knowledge, especially in somebody that's designing a website or even the GUI and so on. I mean, they all have to make sure it's accessible. The other question I get all the time, does this apply to phones, apps? Absolutely. Yes.
Anything digital, really.
Mm-hmm.
Video, like this video here, like what was we put it up on YouTube, needs to be accessible.
It has to be captioned. One of the reasons too is that we use Teams a lot now. Teams actually does auto captioning as you're on a meeting with Teams. It will auto caption, which is great. The other piece of it too is that you have another reason that people get sued. It's very important that this is a paramount, is that you got to let your clients know that when their front desk, their reception, their Q&A, their QA team, whatever, needs to be trained on this. There was an issue several months back where a hotel chain, I don't remember the name, I'm actually may not say the name of it, but what they did is they put up a job interview webpage, all right, where somebody can go to get hired and
I think I read this on a lawyer's website.
Yeah. Well, what happened is that the page was not accessible, all right? The fields were not tagged. So the person who's blind called up that hotel chain and said, I'd like to apply for that job. The guy said, well, we have the form online. He says, no, I can't see the form because I'm blind. The guy said, wait, you're blind? We can't hire you. That's a double whammy. Number one, the immediate lawsuit. Instead, that person being trained should have said, oh, you know what? I understand completely. We do have an accessibility statement up there, that says we are working towards fixing that immediately. Meanwhile, can I help you put that application in for you? Mm-hmm. Okay? You got to diffuse the situation. You don't want to piss somebody off. That's how you get lawsuits.
So who's doing these lawsuits? Obviously, talk about the law firms themselves are not launching it. What are they doing to get these lawsuits going?
Some of the lawsuits are, the lawsuits themselves a lawyer themselves can't launch it without a plaintiff. So the plaintiff, they've been hiring actually people with disabilities to go out and look at sites, specifically now the real estate industry. They're looking at different, they even art galleries were targeted, believe it or not, 46 art galleries. So the, what they have to do as far as it comes down to, like I said, a person with disability, if they call and ask for some help, give it to them. If not, that person can hire an attorney firm or go to the Foundation for the Blind or go to some organization that they're affiliated with, and suddenly that organization is going to sue on their behalf. Okay? So what you need to do is make sure, you're courteous and receptive to them. You always have to diffuse it. That's what attorneys tell me to do. You diffuse it at the phone, all right? When somebody calls up, you diffuse it at that point. So it's important to have the accessibility statement, and that will have on it a phone number, an email address, methods of contact, and also the status you're at as far as, what you're working on towards compliance and where you're at with it. So, things that have issues right now, but you're working towards fixing them, okay? Common accessibility issues, again, like might be a button that just says log in. We did a job for Morgan Stanley a while back. Their app, their login button didn't say login. Okay, visually it said login. When you turn the screen reader on an iPhone, all right, it actually said guitar. All right, logout button said saxophone. Whoever it was into instruments in the back end, that software programmer.
That's typical for web designers. They don't think that way.
Correct. That's why education is very important going forward. If you teach a fisherman to fish, you tell them once that those tags mean something, especially in SEO.
Yeah,
it still means something.
I've seen too many images where it says image1.jpg.
Yes, and from a screen reader, sometimes those things are a paragraph long. And can you imagine having to hear every single letter and number being read to you before you get to the actual button? It's crazy. Yeah.
Exactly. It's crazy. So let's shift gears. Where's the opportunity, Anthony? How are you guys going to market? What are you guys doing? Obviously, you do webinars like this, but how are you using the ADA compliance part of your business to generate new business for you?
Well, webinars is a big thing. I mean, before the COVID hit and so on, I was doing webinars for the Hoppeck Industrial Park Association, which is like 50,000 businesses and so on. And I was one of the speakers at their trade shows and so on. And that was, it put me aside. And I was able to basically glean some business off that. Melville Chamber of Commerce, I've done webinars with them. So just getting out there and again, not making it a sales pitch, but just making it informing people, raising awareness. It means a lot. And what happens out of that, I started getting leads. I went to a lot of the functions. Basically, Stuart, on stuff you taught me, is to get out there more, go into these, now it's a matter of webinars. I'm on a lot of different meetings and stuff like that. Even the HIA is having their next trade show is all virtual. So I'm going to be part of that. But it's a matter of getting out there and being engaged. To my clientele and even potential clients, I send out newsletters, again, raising awareness about the ADA. Any of the proposals I send out and so on may have a little bit of the ADA associated with it, saying that we also did a courtesy review of your website. And again, it's a very simple thing to do. Wave there's a tool called Wave. You can go out and even for your own site or your client's site, use it. It gives you it's an automated tool, only about at the most 40% accurate, but it will show you your problems. Guaranteed they will find problems. If it doesn't find them on the home page, you put it in the contact us page. It usually finds issues.
So it's like an MSP doing a network assessment. They're always going to find problems.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean that's good. I mean, and people are receptive. You mentioned earlier, it's opening the doors to new opportunities versus going in there and doing the exact same thing everybody else is doing, like a free dark web scan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could do them too, but the ADA actually sets us apart because most people don't even know it's a thing, and they appreciate the fact that I brought it to their attention, and they want to know what the steps are. And I have a canned email ready to go all the time to clientele with everything in it, the video and so on, and the steps they need to take, a document as well, an attachment, and I send that out. And plus, we have the website that they can land on, send them that link. And it's also a matter of, getting out there, writing articles. I've been trying to do as many as I can. Just to, again, being out there, being the expert on this. And even if you're not an expert, just telling, now that I've taught you guys about this, tell your clients about it. Even if you don't know 100% everything about it, just tell them this is a thing. You can send them the links that we could supply you and stuff that show the W3C website and the guidelines and what it's all about. There's a lot of attorneys out there giving the information out too as well.
And where are the hotspots right now? Because the last time we checked, it was New York and Florida. Are they still kind of the primary two states that get the majority of the lawsuits?
New York, Florida, California. You have it's all over the country, basically, though. I mean, even small little stores. A little luggage store in California got sued. Here was a shoe store on Long Island. Small little mom and pops are getting sued now because
and they go after them because they'll pay, right?
They'll pay, yeah, because what's going to happen is the big guys, if you go after the big guys, they have attorneys. They have attorneys that work for the firm that are going to fight back, okay, and then tie you up in court. But the attorneys, these drive-by attorneys are learning now is that they are going after the little guys because they don't put up a fight. They just pay the the $10,000, $15,000, $25,000, up to $50,000 is what the suits are going for. So that unfortunately, it's an unfortunate truism, and even now in the event of COVID and so on, everything with the shutdown, it's still active and still happening. So it's important to take steps now.
So there's a good opportunity out there. We know that we know what we need to do here. I think you mentioned a few tools, and what was the website again? Wave.
Well, one of the things is the w3.org. That's the w3.org. Okay, yeah. That's one of them. As far as the they should be going to the web content accessibility guidelines. That's all the guidelines are. Okay. As far as the other one is a Wave. It's from WebAIM. Actually, I'm going to throw this over to Jonathan right now because he's the expert on this as far as he does all the testing and so on. John, can you pick up on that?
I know he's monitoring in the chat, so.
Yeah. John, I see your mute went off. Go ahead. All right, give him another second. If not, I'll just jump in. But, okay, so basically we're dealing with, it's a, John, was that you?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes, there we go.
There we are. Sorry about that, guys. My name is John. I'm one of Anthony's guys. I'm a CPAC certified accessibility expert. And tell you a little bit about the automated tools out there. One that is very popular is Wave. It's the WebAIM's proprietary automated software. And you could just Google WebAIM Wave. And basically you go to this site and you put in your URL of your home page or whatever page you want to test. And you submit it. And it'll come back with an automated report of the issues found on your homepage. And basically, automated tools are only about 40% accurate, as Anthony said. But they do give you a good indication of the types of issues that you have on your website. And it also gives you some explanatory information regarding the types of issues and the things you could do to fix those issues. But it is important to have somebody who's knowledgeable about accessibility to interpret those reports, to rule out any false negatives and false positives, and to make sure that everything is actually flagged correctly and such by the automated tool. Additionally, there are several color contrast analyzers out there. This is a big issue I run across quite often, actually, is color contrast of text on its background. This is a major problem, obviously, for anybody who is low vision. And as we all know, as we get older, our vision starts to go. Am I right, Anthony?
Yeah, so, my screens are getting bigger.
So a color contrast of text on its background and of interactive elements is of paramount importance for anybody who's trying to use your website. And this is something that, as Anthony mentioned before, when you fix something with persons with disabilities in mind, you tend to fix it for any visitor regardless of ability level. So color contrast, there are several out there, and we'll throw all this stuff into the chat for you, as well as any follow-up. We'll give you the links to this information and these tools. Additionally, as far as some of the common issues which you can bring to the attention of your dev teams today if you want to, link texts is one I see very, very often, where how often are you reading something and you see a link that says click here? Well, that's pretty vague, isn't it? Link texts, by definition, are supposed to...
Not me, John, because I'm an SEO guy. I always want to put a very descriptive link there.
I saw that. I see that. You're very, very aware of that, Stuart. So yeah, the link text, they should be very to the point and direct, exactly where the destination is, what the purpose of the link is. Any sort of vague language should be avoided in link texts. So no click here's, no mores, things like that. Additionally, like Anthony said before about alternative text for images. If you have an informative image on your page, you would want to use the alt attribute to provide a written text of what that image is, what's being depicted visually, what information is being conveyed visually by that image, why is it on the page. So you'll want to provide that obviously for low vision and blind users who use a screen reader who need that information to interpret what the image is about. Other things such as headings, when we use headings in our documents and our websites to structure and organize the content, you want to make sure that they're of correct nesting. So therefore, the heading level 1 will be sort of the main topic of the page, and then heading level 2s will be main subsections, and then heading level 3s will be subsections of the subsections, and so on, sort of like a Russian doll type of thing. So that will convey the structure and organization of the web page to any blind or low vision users using a screen reader or other assistive technologies.
And it's pretty much basic HTML. I mean, this is...
Yeah, this is basically language. This is using the language as it was created, correct.
Yeah, it's what we talked about, Anthony, yesterday on the phone. It was, I'm really thinking about rebranding the Eulistic website package to the Eulistic KISS package. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
The more complexities you introduce to anything, the more chance of going offside with your ADA.
That's absolutely true. And also another major problem, guys, listen to this, is that if you're using third-party add-ins, okay, I mean, if you're using a shopping cart or something that is not necessarily yours, you're pulling in from a third party, you're responsible for that. Your customers are responsible for that. Meaning if your site, if somebody comes to your site and it's still not compliant, but it's because of the plugin, you're still going to sue you. You're still liable for that. That's why it's important to choose your plugins wisely, and also on your accessibility statement, state that the third-party plugins have not completely been tested yet, and you're working towards compliance with them. Okay, so
one of the great things about working with Eulistic, here's a shameless plug for me, because we get to work together with Anthony's team all the time, and every one of our websites, we're constantly looking at towards ADA compliance. Because I know Shane's on there right now testing his website and a few others. I know they're probably out of compliance slightly, but we're rebuilding a new one for Shane anyway, so we're doing it from the ground up. But we're always looking at ways to improve the compliance factors of it, and make those modifications. And one of the things that every website we have, from learning from you, is that accessibility statement. And I look around at some of our competitors in the MSP marketing space, they're not really on the ball with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and even some of their websites aren't accessible. So, their own. You have to make sure your own website's accessible, and that it's like a shoemaker with holes and issues. So, we're always, even with our own website, we're constantly making adjustments to it, and going through it, because it's a dynamic site. But I love the idea of what Stu came up with, is a very simple, keeping a site simple but to the point, because sometimes a site, you get to it and it's just so much, it's information overload, and you just really want to get to the point as far as what you need.
Well, that's why we love StoryBrand, because it forces us to be simple. For those that are not familiar with StoryBrand, it's a very, really, really good book to read, and it's our, we have, you listen to the StoryBrand. Well, we have a team member that's a certified guide with StoryBrand, so it's proven to be a very, very good model. And again, keeping it simple, there's a lot of benefits to it. Reduces the complexity, reduces the load time, keeps you out of ADA trouble, all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
So Anthony, one of the questions is, how do people work with you? So do you have a program where MSPs can work with you? Is it a referral program? Is it a partnership program? How does it work?
We could do basically the easiest thing is a referral program, where you refer a client to us on a specific thing, and you get money back, because this way the liability comes to us. Also, if you're going to be white labeling it, is that you then are the frontliner on it.
Yeah, you don't want to be white labeling this.
No, you just, because we're the experts, we have the certifications. Now, we have no problem in telling and helping train your company, or if you're a website developer and so on like that, what you need to do so you can bring this knowledge in house. All right, again, teaching a fisherman to fish. It may, if you have a website designer, we'll tell you what needs to be done, so that you can make sure that person is certified, and bring the knowledge internal, okay? Yeah. So you don't have to depend on us. But it's important to not only fix a site, but keep ongoing checks, all right, certifications, and periodically, and make sure your accessibility statement is very clear and to the point as far as, the status of the site.
Yeah, exactly. So going forward, I think actually, before we get into some questions, going forward, here's the action items. I think, review your client websites. If you email Anthony, I'm sure he'll be more than happy to share that template with you. And then, talk to your clients and, just make them aware, at least get yourself out of harm's way with that, make them aware. And if they elect not to, then I personally, Anthony, like the signing off on it. I mean, I like the document, keep that physical document either in a DocuSign or a physical copy. Then I have proof. But at least send them an email, get them to acknowledge that they're aware their sites are not in compliance, and that release you that could release you from potential liability down the road. And then talk to them about ways you do, and bring in a team like LI Tech Advisors to help with that. And then also look at your own site, because there's lots of opportunity there too, and make sure that you have that accessibility statement on there. And take the actions to protect your business, and then use this as a potential way to get new business. Use it as a marketing resource to educate and to inform. As a business owner myself, you'll probably get my attention keeping me out of trouble versus offer me a dark web scan. Because I get dark web scan offers 10 times a day.
Yeah.
And again, I don't mean to downplay the importance of dark web scanning. Don't get me wrong, but this is something where you're different than everybody else, and this is one of those examples that you can differentiate yourself from every other MSP in the marketplace.
Absolutely.
So questions. I think John answered this one on the chat, but I'm going to just ask it to you as well. How much you normally charge your clients and for a service like this, and how much would you charge an MSP to do a work on one of their clients?
Oh, definitely discounted down. But typically, when we go out to a client, it's typically between like $2,000 to $5,000 to go through an entire site. We usually, with that, we go through certain flows of the site, like, user journeys, test them out and stuff like that. But we would definitely discount that down to for existing MSPs that are out there. We also would supply them with a best practices document, which we wrote up. Because if you go to the links on this that I gave you here, the w3.org, for example, it's very hard to navigate that. All right, and it's very hard to understand what they're trying to get at as far as what they're looking for. What we did was rewrote that up in layman's terms as far as what needs to be done. So we have like a very it shows very simple ways to get rid of the low-hanging fruit, the easy thing to fix problems. It's an 80-20 rule. Basically, you try to fix like 80% of the problems on the site, and then reattack the 20%, later on, because you can get rid of a lot of the major problems. And this document definitely helps with that. So again, we do. I have a price sheet and stuff like that I can send out, but basically, we do offer a discount down to MSPs. So.
Excellent. And just in case you guys should be aware, just in case I disappear, we're in the middle of a big storm here in Central Florida. So if I'm gone, that means the power went out. Not because I don't love you guys. It's just that the power went out. I'm getting messages on my teams that some of the power for some of our remote employees are starting to go around the county. So it might be pretty bad. We're getting ready for another hurricane, next week sometime. So we're it's that time of year, Anthony. So Anthony, what's the best way for folks to reach you if they want to engage with you or follow up, or and I'm not gonna say you're able to do this for everybody, but at least I'm appreciated that you have upcoming webinars for a few of my clients coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they want, they can. I have a Calendly link. You can, which I can basically, give them. They can set up an appointment with me directly if they want, or just call our office, which we'll supply that information as well.
Yeah. So if you email, and don't do it yet because I got to get the email address set up, but email ada@ulistic.com, ada@ulistic.com. Give me a few minutes to get the email account set up, and what I'll do is I'll forward it over to Anthony, and then he can reach out to you that way, and then we can move forward there. Let's see. Is there any other questions or anything for Anthony before we wrap it up for today?
Yeah, John was asking about do we offer a recurring fee approach. Yeah, absolutely. Because what we like to do, this is how we build on this, is that we do an initial test, right? We do first a free quick test just to tell you if there's a problem. Then we do a more comprehensive test. That one you pay for. And then out of that, you get an idea of what the problems are with the site. You fix them. Now, what we usually want to happen is you engage us. It could be a few $100s a month, usually 800 to 1,000, maybe more, depending on the client and how much engagement they want. But we basically have a help desk. At that point, you ask us whatever you need to ask us. We work with you. We check things out. And it's an ongoing process. So it's a month to month. And then by the time at the end of this period, it could be a month, it could be 6 months, could be a year, depending on how long big the site is that you pretty much have the site compliant. Now, what we do is another test at the end, which we charge for, but that test is a more elaborate test that actually certifies the site accessible. And then after that, if you still want to engage us, or you at that point, I'm hoping that your dev team or your designer already has a certification. Maybe they went for it, they got the test. They can even at that point carry it on, or we could go and step in periodically and check it out. We also have a company we work with that has actually people with disabilities. In some cases, like with the airlines, they required to have people with disabilities do the testing. So we have a company we would at that point refer to that would bring those people in.
Excellent. So yeah, so email ada@ulistic.com. That email address is up and running now. And what I'll do is I'll introduce you to Anthony. That way it saves Anthony's inbox from getting blown up later as people get this recording. If you email info or ada@ulistic.com, we'll make sure you get all the right information for making sure that your website and you can use ADA compliance as a way to generate new revenue. Because at the end of the day, it's all about generating net new revenue for your MSP, and this is a great way to get your foot in the door and talk about MSP services. It's ADA is not going to sell managed services for you, but in my world, Anthony, managed services fixes a heck of a lot of things.
Absolutely. Yes, we're one-stop shop for everything.
And if the current IT provider is not talking to you about this, then you can use that as a wedge and say, I wonder why they're not talking. What else are they not talking to you about, right?
Yeah.
Lots of ways to skin the cat here. So great. Thanks, John, for the feedback there on the webinar. Great. It's always great to do these webinars, and good to see you guys on every week. Anthony, as always, it's a pleasure. John in there as well. I think he's still on board with us. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Next week, we have, I want to say next week we have the Osprey people on. I got to confirm with them to make sure we're going to talk about a sales prospecting or stuff like that with them. Watch your email. We'll have some stuff coming out. We're trying to get these every week. If you know somebody has a good topic to share, introduce me to them, and I'll be more than happy to have them on and use it. Anthony, once again, thanks again, everyone, and thanks, everyone, for taking 45 minutes out of your Thursday afternoon for us.
All right. Take care, guys. Thank you.